Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Zander Sprague, and I am so delighted that you're joining me today. I wanted to start off with the thought of a day. Shrinking your dream is a mistake. Don't make your dream smaller. Make the steps smaller. You know, it's so important. We have these big dreams. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't give up on it just because it's hard. I've talked a lot about my running. When I started off, I wanted to run a 10K, but I had no idea how to do that. So I started off by just running a mile. And from there, I got a training plan and I was able to not only run a 10K, but I ran my first half marathon. And let me tell you, if I did not have that schedule, it would have been so much harder. But I looked at that schedule, it would tell me go out and run 3 miles. That's what I would do. Keep your visions big. Break down that big dream into just one step at a time. So important. Because when you do that, it is achievable. Trust me, I've done it repeatedly. Now I wanted to give you a little update. I interviewed Dr. Matt Harmody on my podcast, and what an amazing thing. He is a living kidney donor, and he and a team of people climbed all the highest points, all the highest peaks in all 50 states. And it is an incredible story. Matt is still out there advocating for people to understand about living kidney donation and the importance of all of us making sure that we are organ donors so that more people have a chance of living. Now, I am really excited because today I have Michael Dunn here. Thank you so much for coming. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Absolutely. Michael Dunn. I am the CEO of Mental Health Organization, Mental Health Connections, a nonprofit organization where we focused on helping adults who are living with serious mental health illness live meaningful and productive lives.
That is great. I want to talk about that, but I'd love a little background about who Michael is and how you got here.
Absolutely. Well, I'm not from the mental health sector. I've come from the corporate sector, got an opportunity to move over into the nonprofit sector back in 2018 when I joined the Boys and Girls Club organization. Prior to that, I'm from Dayton, Ohio, and I've lived in Sumter, South Carolina. I lived in Goldsboro, North Carolina. I've lived in England for a couple of years. I've lived in Chicago, Houston, Atlanta, and now California. And in all of those locations, I would always volunteer in the community. And so I knew that getting involved with nonprofit if that opportunity ever presented itself, I wanted to do it. And now, fast forward, I am now the CEO of Mental Health Connections, and I've been in this role now a year and a half.
Wow, and how are you enjoying it so far?
Oh, absolutely fantastic. I mean, an opportunity to, again, like I said, I started off with Boys and Girls Club.
Right.
That organization. But to get an opportunity to actually work with adults.
Yep.
And, you know, for us, our median age is somewhere around 30, 35. So getting a chance to have a conversation with adults and just talk about, you know, different things that, you know, we can connect with and, you know, really getting a chance to impact lives in that way. So it's been a fantastic first year and a half.
Well, that's great. And obviously the work that you're doing for that incredibly underserved population is so important. Tell me a little more about what Mental Health Connections, I mean, what you do, what services you have.
Well, Mental Health Connections, we have an opportunity to really connect with two groups because usually when you're talking about mental health, people are in various places of their journey, right? Mm-hmm. Some are still learning about it, some are still trying to understand how to live with it. Others are trying to figure out how to get reacclimated back into society, reacclimated back into the workplace. Mm-hmm. And so we have 3 facilities and we get a chance to connect with both. So we have 2 facilities. They're under the Wellness Center model. There are peer connection centers, one located in East County in Antioch, one located in West County in San Pablo. And members who come there, some may have just been unhoused a few weeks ago. Many are, or some are still dealing with substance use, recovery and abuse. And so we're working with them to kind of just learn about just living and social skills and life skills, et cetera. Our center in Concord, which we call Connections House, is about workforce development. It's under the nationally acclaimed and accredited Clubhouse International model, which is based on following standards and following a structured program that really helps and focuses on getting people back into the workplace. So to get an opportunity to work with members who are just one step away from getting back into the workplace, but they need that safe space to kind of practice their skills and kind of enhance their skills and kind of get back into that frame of mind. That's our Connections House in Concord. And then to have the 2 wellness centers in East and West County, it becomes kind of a pipeline into Connections House. So you can, in theory, look at it and say, a person can be unhoused and you follow through our centers, and over time you can look up a year and a half, 2 years later, and that person is back into the workforce.
And that's great. And the mental health challenges that people are having, are we talking more on the, I guess, personality disorder, the sometimes schizophrenia, schizoaffective, bipolar, that, I mean, is that the population, or is it anyone with a mental health challenge?
Our centers are, we take anyone who needs help.
Sure.
But we really focus on people who have serious mental illness.
Got it.
So that's when you're getting into schizophrenia, bipolar, depression, serious cases of depression and anxiety. And so for us, it's really focused on some members who need connection, right? Need that peer connection, need that understanding, need staff that understanding, need that safe space. But I would definitely say it's on the more serious cases, but for us, it's still people.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, and it is true. My experience, I know that some of the more serious mental health conditions, as we said, schizophrenia, bipolar, major depressive disorder, major anxiety disorder, require more touch, more consistent follow-up, and the wellness center, probably a great place for people to say, I have a place I know I can show up where people will listen and help me. And that's great. Can you talk a little about, you said the clubhouse model. How does that work?
Well, the clubhouse model, and for me coming over from corporate, it really ended up being a great fit because the clubhouse model was started back in like 1948 in New York. Where you have a structured approach to programs and services following standards. There's 36 or 37 standards. I know the clubhouse will get mad at me for not knowing which one, but it's 36 or 37.
Okay.
But it's structured standards that it's the members' clubhouse. So it's their environment. When I have meetings, members can walk in and they can come and hang out and say, hey, what are you talking about? I mean, you can't have a closed door staff only meeting.
Right.
And when you follow these standards and you follow these practices, you are conditioning and getting members, what we call, our participants, members, getting them back ready for the workplace. And, we're accredited. And the accreditation process itself is every 3 years. We just went through ours back in February. And you have to go through a rigorous, set of sort of expectations and analysis. And, people come in from different places in the country and to make sure that you're following the guidelines that's expected to consider yourself an accredited clubhouse. So it's structured program, metrics, really gives staff and everyone a guide to follow.
Yeah.
And you follow that guide, then the outcome becomes you're getting people back into the workforce.
Definitely. And that is really important, because oftentimes mental health issues do take you out of the workforce. You just find there's a time where you're not able to work. It's hard for you to be someplace for 8 hours. It's just overwhelming. It's maybe the medication, you're trying to figure out your medications and stuff. Do you guys have medical staff that help people with trying to figure out their medications, or is it more just the mental health side of things?
Not at all. No, no clinicians, and under the clubhouse model, that is a specific item to stay away from.
Okay.
You don't want members to come in and feel like they're in any kind of hospital, any kind of clinic, any kind of environment of medical.
I got it.
You want them to feel like I'm at work.
Got it.
You want them to feel like I am at a place where, I can contribute, I can get involved, where the mental illness is not even something that is discussed.
Okay.
So you really want an environment of normalcy.
Yep.
And to me, again, following those standards and following that accreditation process, it makes you adhere to that. And so now we will connect people to resources.
Yeah.
Right. And on the clubhouse model, you have to be referred by a clinician, because a clinician needs to say this person is at their journey or that place in their journey where they're ready for this type of structured program.
Absolutely.
But we can definitely connect to the resources, but we don't want our environment to feel clinical.
I got it. And that makes sense. Are there job skills being taught or practiced at the clubhouse and stuff like that?
It's not specific. You can't, again, following the standards, right?
Yeah.
You can't go and teach a specific skill. You create an environment and you create work units, and within those work units, it becomes, for example, we have a hospitality work unit where it's our staff that are cooking the meals and they're running the dining room. They're preparing flowers to do, outreach to, to members who haven't been there. We have a media room, right? A multimedia room where we're doing podcasts and we're doing social media posts. We have clerical corner where we're putting together newsletters and actually, collecting data. So it's not specific skills. Like you can't come in and say,
but
I'm
you're
a
learning
carpenter.
you're learning by doing.
Correct.
Because that's
Correct.
really cool.
And the standard says you cannot teach a specific skill.
I got it. Well, but I would think, like on the culinary side, there may be some teaching of, hey, here's how we need to make the soup or something like that.
No,
so there's
absolutely.
obviously some instruction
It's
has
going
to happen.
It's going to be in a abstract sense, yes, but you're not going to say, I'm going to teach you to be a chef.
Got it.
Right.
Got it. Interesting. And in the wellness centers, how do those operate?
Wellness centers are more about learning, and again, because people are at places in their journey, they may not even be connected to a clinician, may have never seen a therapist, may not have a case manager. So for us, it's taking people where they are in their journey and then helping them along, connect to those type of resources. At the wellness center, you need more help, you need more support, you need more guidance. Probably definitely not ready for the workplace.
Right.
But if you can get back on path and learning, for example, we follow the 8 dimensions of wellness. So if you follow and you're learning about emotional wellness and physical, well-being and, emotional and financial, and you go through the different 8 dimensions, over time, you want that person to start feeling like, okay, I'm ready to go to a program like Connections House.
I got it. Very interesting. Now, are you're helping people if they need mental health counseling or something, to connect them outside of the wellness center to those resources that may help them to further their journey?
Correct.
Okay.
We're part of the Contra Costa County Behavioral Health System
Okay.
services, and there are many services that Contra Costa County offers. So our job, and I always tell our staff, we want to be a part of the case manager in terms of helping the case manager if they need, our assistance. If there's a program that we know that Contra Costa has that our members may not know about, we want to make that connection. So it's really kind of being that liaison and being that connector to resources. But when you're in our center, it's about social skills and life skills. And again, my goal is to see them get to Connections House, because that means they're progressing to being prepared for the workforce.
Right. What are, if you don't mind sharing, how long might someone be at Connections House before they may re-enter the workforce, be perhaps housed on their own, having a more independent life?
That timeline is going to vary.
Oh, of course.
You have some, who are very active and ready, and you have others that it's taking a lot of time. And even when you start talking about going out into the workforce, you can see that anxiety kick in, and you can see sort of that I'm not quite ready yet.
Right.
I will say that it's our goal in our job to look up and see new faces a lot in Connections House, because we want to look and say, oh, we have a percentage that have moved on,
exactly,
to the workplace. And even then, you're once a member, always a member.
Sure.
So even when you enter the workplace, you can always come back to the Connections House. You can always attend outings. You can always come and participate. But I'm not going to say that there's a specific timeline on. I've seen, there's some people that's been there for a few years that have not entered yet, and nor do we want to push. Right? We want to make sure that they're ready.
Right, absolutely. But there are obviously some people who are ready to do that, and for lack of a better, move on to whatever their next step is.
Absolutely, and we have an interesting sort of transition point. We call it our TE program, Transitional Employment. So it's not going from Connections House right into full-time employment.
Got it.
With transitional employment, it's part-time. You really have a job coach at Connections House, and it's our job coach's responsibility to work with that employer and to be that voice and be there to help ease that person into it. And it's interesting because the reason why we reconnected with the chamber is, it's my goal now as leader of the organization to connect with local businesses in the Concord and Pleasant Hill community that will be open to support our transitional employment program, because it's a unique program.
Absolutely, and of course that makes sense. You got to have businesses that are like, yes, I will participate in this, and that's great. I think the work you're doing is so important. And one thing that you mentioned that I'm sure people don't really know, Contra Costa actually has quite a lot of services available. Most people are unaware. They may know one or two, but there's a wide variety of services. Can you speak to what services are available that people might not know?
Well, I know that, like you said, it's from clinical to housing support, to food insecurity, supporting with food, to supporting with again, they have different types of workforce development programs. And to me, I was actually kind of blown away, because I didn't realize, when people always wonder, where are my tax dollars going, or what's happening in our county, with services. Contra Costa County is to me on top of it in terms of helping from everything from substance use recovery, down into, the unhoused, population. Obviously, that's a big, item right now to continue that push. So working with families, right? Working with kids, supporting families. So there are a lot of resources out there. All you got to do is just make the contact, just reach out to that, to those groups.
Yeah, and my experience is there's no matter where you are, there's a surprising amount of resources and help available. You simply have to ask.
I found out that either people don't know how to search and find, or they're afraid to ask, right?
Yes.
The stigma that comes with mental health, you don't want to be denied, you don't want to find out, or you don't know how to ask.
Yeah.
But I will tell you that, at least from the Contra Costa County standpoint, they are going above and beyond to put information out, whether it's social media, whether it's internet, whether it's postings. Us as what we call community partners, we work with other nonprofit organizations that are funded by the county to share resources and to share. To me, there are other organizations that do things better than we do. And so if our members can spend a couple of days with us, but then they benefit by going to another organization because they have an activity or something that they do well, I encourage that, right? You don't have to be at our facility 5 days a week, but if you're somewhere and you're getting help and you're moving forward, then we all win.
Absolutely, no, absolutely. And you're right. I mean, with mental health, a lot of times there's luckily less stigma, but there's still a lot of stigma around it. And some of the more serious things that we've been talking about, the schizophrenia, the sort of the more severe personality disorders, sometimes they don't see that there's this person may not actually say, I have a problem, I need help. They say, well, there's nothing wrong, I'm fine. And that can make it more challenging, even though other professionals look and say, they need some support. Do you need support? No, I don't. You're like, but you do. You're unhoused. You're having delusional thoughts that people are reading your mind or something, and not making fun of any of that. But it's just sometimes help is available, but people don't either want to or think that they need help.
I think it also comes down to trust.
Yep.
You want to interact and engage with someone that you trust, that you feel like that you can open to, and when they say, hey, here's help, you can go get it, and and they're following you, versus feeling like it's a person of authority from this administrative office that's saying, let me get you off the street, you're making people upset. What I've learned in the short period of time, a year and a half, that even with the most serious mental illness of schizophrenia, you sit there and engage with the person, and you respect and you understand that they may be looking at reality a little bit different, but there's always a connection there. There's always a way. I've told a staff person that sometimes I can look in a person's eye and you can tell that there's a spirit in there that is trying to communicate or wants to communicate different, but they don't know how.
Yeah.
And so when you take your time and really allow them to slowly get there, that's when you start building that trust. And and then you get out and you can get them the different help that they need. Because what I'm learning is the stigma of, especially when you hear the term serious mental illness.
Yeah.
You think serious means I'm going to hurt somebody.
Yeah.
And absolutely does not.
No.
It just means that they need more help getting an opportunity to engage and connect. But once they make that connection, it's fantastic people.
Absolutely.
Fantastic people.
Absolutely. So here's something I love to ask my guests, which is, so as CEO, but all of us, but I'll say in your role as the CEO, I think we all have what I call the not yet. Those things that we want to accomplish, but we either haven't started that journey or we're just still on that journey. So what for you are one or two of your not yets, things that you'd like to achieve?
I think my not yet is fully appreciating gratitude. And what I mean by that is, now that I'm in a place, I'm leading an organization, I have lived experience from my, journey, And you always hear self-help books say, live in the moment, live now, be grateful, don't think about the past. And at 55 years old, I'm not there yet. I say it and I think about it, I write it down, your journal, but I'm not there yet, because I do want to get to the point to where I truly wake up and say, I'm absolutely grateful, and there is no thinking about the past, which brings on depression, or thinking about the future, which brings on anxiety. But really living in the moment. I know I need to, not there yet.
I get you. I get you. And look, I think we do need to remember where we've been. I think the lens in which we look at where we've been is oftentimes we look at what we didn't do in the past, right?
Yeah.
And I talk in my book about what I call the 97-3 rule, which is 97% of your day is good, and up to 3% isn't as good. Now, obviously, there are days where bad stuff happens and it's much more, but in general, our days are pretty good. When we look back at our life, why aren't we remembering all the good stuff that happened? We look at we focus on what, I didn't get that promotion, I didn't take that, I didn't get offered that job, I didn't whatever, right? The sort of that 3%. So as we're looking back, we have to remember, as a history major, I go, those who do not observe history are doomed to repeat it, right? So pay attention to what, that wasn't a good choice, or I didn't like that, but also look at how much good has happened, right? You're right, living in the moment, stopping to discover the wonder of every day. I challenge people to say, when you go home, stop and look at the outside of your house. What do you see? Oftentimes, you notice something that might have been there for forever. I told that to a friend of mine who didn't realize that the front door to his apartment building was purple. And he'd lived there for like 3 years. Why? Because he was just in his own world and just went through the door. So, maybe that's part of appreciating like the now, is like discover something new in every day. Even if it's noticing some flowers or that the sun is out.
I completely agree. One of the things I think that's interesting is I've learned to now look back on the past at the good things, and the reason why, therapy. For the first time 3 years ago. And I think and hopefully telehealth will open up therapy for a lot of people, and I don't mind, sharing it and talking about it, but getting an opportunity to talk to a therapist for the first time in my life. And one of the things that we went through was probably just a year ago. She said, reflect back and let's make a list of all the positive things that have happened. Because I would always look back and talk to her about, oh, this happened to me when I was young, and this happened to me when I was, and when she had me do that, and I went back and we had a session and I was going through it, she was like, but look, Mike, it's not so bad after all, right? Yeah. And it was just an interesting, but it was that therapy. And so I think there's a stigma with therapy a little bit, but I don't care if you're in the professional world, where you're at in your life, if there's an opportunity or you feel like you want to share, therapists get it. Yeah, therapists get it.
We do, and when I work with my clients, I say, at some point in our life, we get stuck on whatever that is. My job as a therapist is to help you get unstuck. Once you get unstuck, you don't need me anymore. I've done my job. You don't need most people do not need ongoing therapy, but things happen in our life and we are just sort of stuck, right? And maybe you're reflecting on something that happened in your childhood and you need to just find a way to resolve that so you can move forward. But yes, obviously as a therapist, I'm like, yes, therapy is really important. I too have had therapy, very helpful. And I think telehealth has made it a lot more accessible to more people, because that barrier of I don't have a car or a way to get to the therapist's office. Obviously, telehealth requires some degree of connection to either having a phone of some sort or internet connection. And some people just don't have that, so it has to be in person. Look, Mike, so much that you and I could talk about. Unfortunately, our time is up. How can people find Connection House?
Our website is www.mentalhealthconnectionsca.org.
Okay.
So again, mentalhealthconnectionsca.org. You can follow us on Instagram, which is @_connectionshouse_ Instagram or whatever. I'm not a social media person, and Bree, our media person, and I told her, I said, how do I say our Instagram station? But but we're on social media, but it starts at our website. They can go from there. And we would love, because I believe that it's a gem in the Concord community and the Contra Costa County community, and I'd love for more people to get a chance to learn about us and come visit.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for the work that you're doing. It is so important.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. I want to remind everyone that if you're ready to begin your epic journey, go to epicbegins.com. And as always, remember, epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.